Dog-drawn carts in 1920s Belgium. With horse shortages, over 15,000 carts were pulled by dogs. Tokyo citizens mourned the death of Hachiko, 1935. The loyal dog waited for his owner at the station every day, even after his passing. A man asking for help from a passing car during the brutal genocide in Rwanda, 1994. In Japan from the 17th–19th centuries, there was onazumo, or female sumo. It originated in districts where there were brothels. Prostitutes wrestled either each other or blind men. Gargoyles on the facades of Gothic churches are usually positioned so that rainwater flows from the roofs through their mouths. However, one of the gargoyles at Freiburg Minster is holding onto the wall with its hands and feet, and water pours out of its backside. According to a city legend, during the construction of the cathedral, the city council raised the requirements for the stonemasons without increasing their pay. The stonemasons completed the work but placed this defecating sculpture opposite the city council's windows. Iron lungs and polio hospital wards, 1950s. Manute Bol, the tallest player in NBA history. The basketball player's height was estimated at 7 feet 6.9 inches, 231 centimeters. German field dentist, World War I. A man in Durban rides a bus designated for white passengers as a protest against South Africa's apartheid policy, 1986. The unloading of bodies after the ferry Danya Pass collided with an oil tanker in 1987, resulting in about 4,300 deaths, the largest peacetime maritime disaster. The cause of the tragedy was negligence from the crew. There was only one person on the bridge while the rest of the officers were resting, watching TV, and drinking beer. Life vests were locked up and no ship sent an SOS. Children in bomb shield hats, headphones, and protection from biting their tongues. Sydney, 1942. Rome, 1964. This is a local lost and found office. On the shelves, lost umbrellas. It's very interesting how the owner can recognize their umbrella in such abundance. A German woman facing public humiliation because of a romantic affair with a Polish man, 1942. 12 Soviet snipers who shot 775 German soldiers during World War II, 1945. All of Mahatma Gandhi's possessions after his death, India, 1948. The last male northern white rhino, guarded by soldiers until his death in Kenya in 2018. The two remaining females live under 24-hour protection but cannot reproduce, marking the tragic end of an entire subspecies. Women cannibals, USSR, 1920s. Gay activists carry a mile-long rainbow banner through New York City to mark the 25th anniversary of the Stonewall Riots, 1994. Captured 16-year-old German soldier at the end of War, 1945. Drinking fountains for blacks and whites, USA, 1956. This photograph, taken on March 17, 1973, became a symbol of the end of the Vietnam War. In the frame, U.S. Lieutenant Colonel Robert Sturm reunites with his family after 5 years of captivity in North Vietnam. Guillaume Duchenne stimulates muscle contractions with electrical probes to artificially induce facial expressions, circa 1862. Many are surprised by the fact that Pope Benedict XVI served in Nazi Germany. French police show the way to entering the German Wehrmacht in Paris. In 1945, France would become one of the victorious countries. Korean entrepreneurs buy weapons for defending their property during the riot. Los Angeles, USA, 1992. Ronaldinho once said, "My father taught me that I needed to learn how to control the ball barefoot to better feel my feet, and I promised him that I would control that ball like no one else." But the truth was, he didn't have enough money to buy me shoes. When I won my first Ballon d'Or, I didn't cry from joy. I cried because I no longer had a father. During the casting for the lead role in the horror film The Shadow of the Cat, 1961. Pacific Islanders examine a F-4U aircraft. Initially, the military was mistaken for gods, 1943. A sign with a quote from Hitler, "Give me 5 years and you will not recognize Germany," Berlin, 1945. Albanian refugees fleeing war, Morini, Albania, 1999. Women make decoy heads to help spot snipers on the front lines, World War I. Open-air POW camp, Kharkov, USSR, 1944. The Black Widow. Bella Sorensen Guinness, a female serial killer who killed for pleasure and greed. She is known to have buried 42 husbands and accumulated more than $250,000. The Black Widow ended her life tragically. Her body was found in a forest. An ancient Greek torture involved a copper or brass bull with a hollow interior. The victim's terrible screams were amplified by the iron structure and sounded like the bull's roar. A symbolic London photo from 1938. A family heads to the pool in swimsuits and gas masks, reflecting the tense anticipation of war and chemical attacks. On April 15, 1989, one of the most horrific tragedies in the history of English football occurred. 94 Liverpool fans were crushed to death and 766 others were injured at Hillsborough Stadium during an FA Cup semi-final match against Nottingham Forest. Telephone lines in New York, USA, 1903. Slave market, USA, 1864. It was only after the Civil War and the ratification of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution that slavery was abolished in the country. The first time Che Guevara's name appeared in newspapers wasn't related to revolutionary events, but when he took a 4,000-kilometer motorcycle trip across South America. Sanitary dog finds a wounded soldier, World War I, 1916. WWEI veteran playing guitar to survive, Japan, 1951. Racial hatred, a hotel manager pouring muriatic acid into the pool to get black swimmers to get out of the pool. Native American Sachin Littlefeather refuses the Oscar Award, 1973. In the category of Best Actor, Marlon Brando won for his role in The Godfather. However, he refused to attend the ceremony, and instead a Native American woman took the stage. She addressed the audience saying, "Marlon regrets not being able to attend, but he refuses the award due to the terrible treatment of Native Americans in the U.S." Snow blockade in Minnesota, USA, March 29, 1881. A Chinese suicide bomber puts on a vest with hand grenades before charging a Japanese tank. Shandong Province, spring 1938. Andy the Goose was born without feet but became a celebrity after inventor Gene Fleming made him Nike sneakers. He inspired children with disabilities until he was tragically found killed in a park in 1991. The culprit was never found. Residents of East Berlin show their children to their parents in West Berlin. In the 1870s, the KKK was officially banned and went underground, but in 1915 the organization resumed open activities. About 6 million people joined its ranks. Lynchings in the U.S. continued. Looted Inca Cemetery, Peru, 1973. Unique 1944 photo of the Normandy landing by military cyclists. The British colony of Zanzibar on the east coast of Africa. A tired nanny poses next to her ward named Farrokh Bulsara, 1947. A quarter of a century later, the boy would adopt the pseudonym Freddie Mercury. In Mozambique, Africa, a bald man was once again killed and beheaded. The reason is a superstition that the heads of bald men are full of gold, and some locals believe this. Passers-by study a new map of Europe after World War I, 1918. Private Richie sniffs a letter sent by his girlfriend from Oklahoma and scented with her perfume, Vietnam, 1966. In 1815, about 50,000 soldiers died at the Battle of Waterloo. Before burying the soldiers, their teeth were pulled to make dentures. Waterloo teeth were in high demand. Soldiers during a break between battles, April 1943. Stubby, the most famous war dog of World War I, and the only dog to be promoted to the rank of sergeant. Training for the annual pancake race. The widely known photograph that changed the perception of AIDS. A father comforts his son, David Kirby, on his deathbed in Ohio, 1990. Germans celebrating fall of Berlin Wall, Potsdamer Platz, Nov 12, 1989. In 1914, at the request of the U.S. government, Russia sent about 2,000 engineers to help establish a heavy military industry in the USA. A Turk washes his feet for his final prayer as Bulgarian soldiers prepare the gallows for him, 1913. The coronation of Bokassa, the Emperor of the Central African Republic. 1/3 of the country's budget was spent on it, and among the refreshments was the meat of his political opponents. Inflatable boats made of buffalo hide, early 19th century India. African king riding on a subject holding an umbrella, German East Africa, 1913. At the beginning of 1947, the USSR imposed a ban on marriages between foreigners and Soviet citizens in an effort to combat espionage. Prayer for peace, 100,000 monks praying, Thailand. A hut made of mammoth bones found in Ukraine. The structure is about 15,000 years old. Dinner in the luxurious dining hall of the Hindenburg airship, 1938. In 1885, an ancient Maya statue was found in the jungles of Honduras by archaeologists. The jaws of the extinct megalodon shark compared to a modern great white shark. Uzbek schoolgirls during a math lesson, Tashkent, Turkestan Soviet Republic, 1921. In 2016, U.S. student Otto Warmbier was sentenced to 15 years in North Korea for stealing a poster. Returned to the U.S. a year later in a coma with severe brain damage, he died days later. Shockingly, North Korea demanded a $2 million bill for his medical care. An American Marine offers a doll to a child, Vietnam, 1965. Employees of Fred Alger Management, photographed around 2001 on the 93rd floor of One World Trade Center, lost 35 staff in the 9/11 attacks. A couple shows their newborn children to their grandparents across the Berlin Wall, 1961. A pie eating contest, 1937. A clash between women and police in South Africa, 1962. The women destroyed and burned a brewery to protest police bans on home alcohol brewing. The smile of an unknown Jewish girl before being sent to the Chelmno concentration camp, June 1940. Park of Culture and Rest, Soviet Union, 1980s. The annual funeral of Mr. Gernhardt, 1951. Farmer Jim Gernhardt, 75, in his new coffin during the first rehearsal of his own annual funeral. which he continued to hold every year for the next 3 decades until his death at 103. Residents of a Lithuanian village greeting a column of German tanks, 1941. Among the first 15 Roman emperors, only Claudius did not have love affairs with men. This was considered unusual behavior and ridiculed by poets and writers who said that loving only women made Claudius effeminate. Harsh canned vodka for soldiers, 1950. Plymouth, Massachusetts police officers salute their service dog, Kaiser, as he is led to the vet clinic for euthanasia. A lonely driver escapes during the collapse of the Tacoma Bridge, Tacoma, USA, 1940. In the 1930s, a woman's pregnancy was determined by inserting her urine into frogs. If, after 15 hours, the frog started laying eggs, it meant the woman was pregnant. A man tries to open the door to his cell in Kigali during the Rwandan genocide, 1994. Prisoner number 4100, named George Davy. The young boy was sentenced to 1 month of hard labor at Wandsworth Prison in 1872. 10-year-old George stole 2 rabbits. A man convicted of social parasitism, tuniadstvo, stands in court. In the USSR, unemployment was considered a crime. This man, who hadn't worked for a year, was sentenced to 1.5 years of corrective labor, 1987. A test of the strength of a pipe with the inventor inside. Canada, 1920. The bow of the Titanic on the bottom of the Atlantic. National Geographic Magazine Archive, 1991. Gerard Homel, one of the most famous mountaineers who had repeatedly climbed Everest and other great peaks, died after falling from a 2-meter ladder while changing a light bulb at home. U.S. military malaria medicine advertisement during World War II. Papua New Guinea, 1940s. Malaria, spread by a specific type of mosquito. A man is walking to deliver a package, unaware of the magnitude of the tragedy. New York, September 11, 2001. One of the few survivors of Andersonville, a prisoner of war camp established by Confederates during the American Civil War. This photo was taken immediately after liberation in May 1865. Tsar Cannon, 1883. It is believed that the Tsar cannon never fired and was made just to instill fear in foreigners. Before releasing a new batch of cigarettes, the manufacturer must ensure they don't kill too quickly. They test cigarettes on those who have no legal rights. As a rule, this leads to an agonizing death. Japanese children at a farewell ceremony before being evacuated from the city to the countryside due to U.S. air raids, Tokyo, 1945. One of the last Tasmanian Aborigines, wiped out by British settlers, 1869. Sparked a reaction. Whether good or bad, I'd love to read your comments below. Get ready for the next installment very soon. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss out. Catch you later.